Locho sampo pa gyo trashi pa tuche tempe tinle yarngo da pelge drolor zampe tse parche palde lame shabla solvade Omo a guru vajradar suma timoni shasane karma uta vardanya shribar varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Om a guru vajradar suma timoni shasane karma uta vardanya shribar varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Om Guru Vajradar Sumatimu Nishasane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajra Timu Nishasane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradar Sumatimu Nishasane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradar Sumatimu Nishasane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradar Sumatimu Nishasane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Sumatimu Nishasane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradar Sumatimu Nishasane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradar Sumatimu Nishasane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradar Sumatimu Nishasane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumatimu Nishasane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumatimu Nishasane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumatimu Nishasane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumatimu Nishasane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumatimu Nishas Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumatimu Nishasane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumatimu Nishasane Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumatimu Nishasane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumatimu Nishasane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumati Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Lama Guru Vajradhar Sumati Muni Shasane Kar Uta Vardanya Shribhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Dagi Chetsun Lama Tuje Che Nyamda Dala Tuje Siksu So Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Oyon Sungi Nawa Tsedo So Tsechi Ningne Sawa Debe Tse Dechen Korlo Visu Lekshu Ne Yila Sambe Dede Malupa Gemel Hungi Drubra Jingelo Sonyi Sodan Dikdun Shape Tse Dungi Namke Yinsu Lekshu Ne Labchen Sonyi Yonsu Zopadan Cheran Nidun Chamra Jingelo Chancho Pargi Ninsen Tukun Tu Niu Peme Siudru Lekshu Ne Chancho Drube Gegen Kunshishi Tungen Dela Drubra Jingelo Dagi Lona Chola Chopadan Chemi Samjor Ngemba Shiwadan Chodan Tumbe Dede Malupa Bemel Hungi Drubra Jingelo Tamche Dan Teji Pardu Negav Tamche Tu Rese Kemne Lama Kele Me Tukje Chingi Dala Siksus Gongyab Drewe Nyamda Dachala Chetsun Lame Tuje Rabgongne Kodan Sungi Nawa Drame Tu Nyamsu Nyome Kesan Toprasho Kewa Kundu Yanda Lama Dan Drame Cheki Pela Lonchechi Sadan Lamge Yonde Rabzon Dorje Change Koba Nyurtoba Shoya Pakyuke Kudan Dagelu Pakyuke Sundan Daginga Pakyuke Tugdan Dagi Ten Yerme Chiktu Jingelo Makyuke Kudan Dagelu Makyuke Sundan Daginga Makyuke Tugdan Dagi Ten Yerme Chiktu Jingelo Muni Maha Muni Shakya Swaha Om Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha Om Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha Sangye Chodan Sogi Chonamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Chinso Give Sonamgi Drola Penchira Sangye Druparesho Sangye Chodan Sogi Chonamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Sonamgi Drola Penchira Sangye Druparesho Sangye Chodan Sogi Chonamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Chinso Give Sonamgi Sangye Druparesho. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge unto enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So, I was just reflecting a bit about the fact that in many traditions, it doesn't matter in the Tibetan culture, this is quite clear from what I have seen, but in many, many old traditions from different countries and cultures, there is the tradition of when we start something new, to do it positively, to do something special in the beginning, like to do a sort of a celebration, to try to do something which is like create an auspiciousness in the beginning. Like, okay, Tibetan New Year is actually 15 days of celebration of beer, dance, and gambling. But this is another story, okay? But anyhow, the fact is that on the that traditionally in Tibet, the first day of the year, what people do is the first thing they do is they start with what is more important. So the first thing they go to their guru to make offerings. So this is something that if the guru is present, they will go to the guru. Like in the monastery in Sera, the lamas, the morning, they need always to, the first day is a puja. Actually, it's quite nice the way how it's done in the monastery, because the first thing, the puja starts before dawn. And when everybody wake up before going to the puja from their own house, they get out of the window and they shout Tashidele. You know? And like very loud and very happy way, and then they go shouting Tashidele as they walk to the road. And then when they go to the puja before dawn, they are there. And those that arrive late, they make jokes to the ones that arrive late, pulling their skirt and making jokes to them. And it's very joyful, the whole puja and so on. And then after the puja is finished, then the first thing they go to their teachers. Everyone go to their own teachers to make offerings. No? So there is the aspect of starting with something positive, starting with something that is joyful, starting with something that it's meaningful. Because when we start a new cycle, it's like the direction that we give for the rest of the cycle. That's more or less the idea. So if we are starting a new job, the first day of the job, the way how we start is said to be very important. The moment in which we start, the day that we start, the form, the way how we start something. This is said to be very important. So normally, we put new clothes because it's auspicious. We do things that are positive. We do things that are somehow joyful and positive and auspicious. So based on this, I would like to make a special wish for everyone today. I think it's very auspicious that we start this day with Dharma teachings. Okay, I think this is something which is very, very good for all of us. And one thing I like to add, I didn't say in Italian, but it's part of tradition to adapt. Okay? If we look Buddhism in Tibet, what was the culture in Tibet before Buddhism? New Year, first thing, do the prayers to the deities, the local deities. Okay? So what did happen after? New Year, first thing, do the prayers to the Buddhist deities, the protectors. So normally they have a tradition also staying the whole night doing protector puja at the passage of one year to the other, then in the next morning go to see the guru. But it's like the adaptation. Even if we see the Tibetan prayer flags, originally they have nothing to do with Buddhism. They are original from the original Bon tradition of Tibet. Then, what happened when Buddhism came? Changed the prayers inside, put Buddhist prayers inside the flags. Okay? So there is a very strong aspect of adaptation. If we look Christmas is not originally, the time of Christmas is not originally a Christian celebration. It was a celebration which was there before, which was connected to the winter solstice. It was another type of celebration from, let's call, the pagan. So what happened? They adapted it to the Christian tradition. Okay? So if we look in every religion everywhere, there has always been the tradition of adaptation to the local culture and where we are. So from this perspective, I think there is nothing wrong in us adapting our Western New Year to a more deeper meaning within Buddhist teachings. Okay? So this for me is quite an upgrade. Normally I have been very much some sort of, not against, but I never really understood much. So I'm like making a big effort, like finding a way, which is, it's good. So I like to wish something for everyone, and something that for me, it's maybe one of the most deep wishes. And it's a prayer that Rinpoche told me once, and it kept in my mind, and for me it's one of the best wishes we could make. Okay. So repeat with me first in Tibetan. Sem chosudro, ch lam tudro, lamla parche miyon warsho. Sem chosudro, ch lam tudro, lamla parche miyon warsho. Sem chosudro, ch lam tudro, lamla parche miyon warsho. May the mind become the Dharma. May the Dharma become the path. May the path be free from interferences. So, when we say, may the mind become the Dharma, we mean, may every thought that we have, may our daily actions, because from the mind comes the speech and the actions of body, may our every action be coherent with the Dharma. So may our mundane mind, that which is taking care of survival and looking for pleasure and avoiding only suffering, and upset with this here and attached with that there, and so on, our busy daily life, may we go beyond that state, and may we truly be coherent with the Dharma. May the Dharma be our main priority in our life, in our thoughts. So when we say, may the mind become the Dharma, may our thoughts be transformed in thoughts that are coherent with our own spiritual development and of benefit for others. So may the mind become the Dharma. May the Dharma become the path. Because one thing is to have a mind which is coherent with the Dharma, another thing is to have developed bodhicitta. So may our spiritual practice and our thoughts become the actual path to enlightenment. We enter the path, which is called the path of accumulation. We enter the actual path in the moment that we develop the full determination to reach enlightenment for the benefit of other sentient beings, or to be free from samsara, which is renunciation, the definitive emergence, or bodhicitta, which means may this spiritual mind of wanting to practice the Dharma and making this life meaningful, may it get deeper and deeper and becomes the total determination to reach enlightenment for the benefit of others. This is when may we be able to enter into the path of accumulation. And may the path be free from interferences. May we be able to go on our path one step after the other without interferences. So we go from the path of accumulation to the path of preparation, to the path of seeing, to the path of meditation, and finally to the path of no more learning, which is the state of Buddhahood. Okay, so this is my deepest wish for everyone in this new year. As we start this year with the teachings of Dharma and the practice of Dharma, so we already start this year transforming our mind into the Dharma. So may we give continuity to it, and may the Dharma become the actual path, and may the path be free from interferences. If we are able in this year only to transform the mind into the Dharma, that's already quite enough. Okay, then we can keep for 2018 the Dharma into the path, but it's already quite good if we're able to do the first. But I wish all for everyone. So this is my deepest wish, sincere wishes for everyone. So may the mind become the Dharma, may the Dharma become the path, may the path be free from interferences. Okay. So, as we go back to the text of Geshe Chekawa, as it says, Lelen tamche chiglada kunla karin chewagom, tongle nibo palmarjang lembe korin rangnetsam. Teni lungla kyombarcha yulsum tuksum getsasum jegi menga dordepa tela dremba kulwe chir chulam guntu tsigijang. Banish the one to blame for everything. Meditate on the great kindness of all beings. Practice a combination of giving and taking. Giving and taking should be practiced alternately. And you should begin by taking from yourself. This too should be made to ride on the breath. Concerning the three objects, the three poisons and the three virtues, the instruction to be followed in short is to be mindful of the practice in general by taking these words to heart in all activities. So, banish the one to blame for everything. Remember that selfishness is the main cause of our suffering, and avoid selfishness as much as you can. Meditate on the great kindness of all beings, is what we have seen yesterday, which is the aspect of remembering that each and every one, without exception, it's important for us. It's important for our path. It's important for our own spiritual development. So to develop gratitude towards everyone. But there is here an important aspect, that is, in order to develop gratitude, we must first develop gratitude on the daily small things. If we do not have gratitude on the small things of life, I don't believe we will ever be able to develop gratitude towards all sentient beings. So we need to train ourselves in having gratitude. We need to train ourselves in saying thank you, in having gratitude towards others. There are two different types of gratitude. One is the gratitude specifically to others. So whenever we meet someone and this person does anything to us, we are grateful to that person. Whenever we receive something, we are grateful, and so on. The other type of gratitude is we can be grateful to things that not necessarily we need to say thank you to someone specifically. Okay? Which means we rejoice. Oh, how beautiful it is that today we have a sunny day. I'm grateful for that. We don't need necessarily to thank someone specifically, but it's a matter of being grateful, of rejoicing about that. I rejoice that I can see. I rejoice that I can walk. I rejoice that I can speak. I rejoice that I am not in a state of war. I rejoice that I have friends. I rejoice about so many things we can rejoice. I rejoice that I'm following a spiritual path. I rejoice that there are people that love me and guide me on my own spiritual path. There are many things that we can rejoice about. And the fact is that whenever we are grateful to something, it means we have. So what happens is that by being grateful, by saying thank you, by being grateful, by having gratitude, no? Gratitude brings satisfaction. Satisfaction brings happiness. Okay. Complaint, criticism brings insatisfaction. Insatisfaction brings suffering. It's two very simple equations that actually work very well. Okay? And I'd just like to open very briefly one bracket in between, not going into details about this, but there is one wrong understanding, very, how to say, not developed, but very spread wrong understanding, very widespread wrong understanding. I don't know if it's something just with our modern culture or if it's already from a long time ago, but nowadays it's very present, which is the wrong understanding that pleasure equals happiness. That pleasure equals happiness. That pleasure is the same thing as happiness. And actually they are two different things. Nothing against pleasure, but pleasure is not happiness. And we do not reach happiness through pleasure. Okay? Happiness comes from a state of satisfaction, of bonding, of feeling connected. Pleasure It's just the pleasure of the senses. So what happens very often if we only take care of having pleasure? We have a superficial sort of happiness. And deep inside there is still a big hole. There's still something missing. Okay? So what has the tendency to do? To increase the level of pleasure in order to try to fill up that hole and to get satisfaction, which means to get happiness, but actually it doesn't work. Okay? Even chemically speaking from our body, okay, I'm not the best person to talk about this, but actually pleasure is connected to dopamine. Okay? Happiness, satisfaction is connected to how do you say in English? Serotonin, no, and oxytocin, serotonin and oxytocin, which is two different types of hormones. Okay, so even physically, is two different things: pleasure and happiness. So we need to understand the difference between these two. And what we really want is not pleasure. What we really want is happiness, is satisfaction. Okay? So both of them, they have a different path to be developed. And but we live in a moment in which it's given to us as the path to happiness is the path of pleasure. Nothing against pleasure, but just remember, pleasure is not happiness. It's a good moment, it's okay, it's nice, it's pleasurable, as the word says, but it's not satisfaction. And if we do not live pleasure with satisfaction, it will just increase the level of insatisfaction because we gain pleasure, but at the same time we are not satisfied, so we need more, and then we need more, and then we need more, and then we need more, and it's never enough because we are simply going in the wrong direction. Instead, we should cultivate attitudes and ways of being that brings us the state of satisfaction. Okay? So, based on this, gratitude brings satisfaction. Satisfaction brings happiness. Okay? I think it's quite clear, right? So, I remember one time Lumpo Tata, the abbot of Dhammakaya, this Theravada incredible master that came here. He gave on one of his teachings, he was telling us, we are made out of habits. We have many, many habits, mental habits, verbal habits, and physical habits in our lives. And in order, the main goal is to change our mental habits. But that's more difficult. So we need to start by changing our verbal and physical habits. And by changing the way how we speak and the way how we act, we will naturally influence the way how we think. Sure, if we change the way how we think, it will change the way how we speak and we act, okay? But because it's more difficult to change the mind, by starting to force our speech and our actions, it will gradually influence the mind also. So one of the ways of doing that, train oneself in being grateful. Say thank you. Use our speech in a way of being grateful instead of complaining and criticism and criticizing. For a very, very simple reason, okay? Criticism and complaint, which is basically the same thing, brings insatisfaction. Insatisfaction brings suffering. Gratitude brings satisfaction because it means I have, I receive, I am grateful, so I have. So good. And this brings satisfaction, brings happiness. Okay. So it's just understanding which way I want to go. So what is the process? Is to train ourselves. How do we train ourselves? We force ourselves to say thank you. We force ourselves to say I'm grateful. I rejoice about it. And in the beginning it will not be natural, it will not be spontaneous, but it will be artificial. But gradually it becomes natural. It remembers me one friend from Brazil. So she had one experience that she shared, and I think it was very nice. She went for 1 week to take care of one of her cousins. I think was a cousin. And this cousin had just had a surgery and was in a quite bad shape, so needed help. So she went there to help her for a week because her brothers and sisters could not be there, whatever reason. So she was there to help her, to assist her for a week. And she arrived there, and when she saw the actual situation that she needed to clean her, she needed to give her food, she needed to really give care, like 24 hours care for her. After the first moment she started, she thought with herself and she said, why am I here, Why did I do this? I could be somewhere else making a nice vacation. Why I took my 1 week of vacation to be here and being in such a difficult situation? Why did I do this to myself, And she started doing this. And as she saw that, she understood, she said, okay, conceptually, she said, no, that's wrong, I should be helping here. Look, what a bad situation she is. How selfish from my side to be thinking about that. But it doesn't matter how much she thought, that feeling was still there. So she remembered the teachings, and she started to act, saying, people ask, oh, so thank you very much that you are here. Thank you very much, like the brothers or the sisters of her cousin. They all thank you very much that you are here, that you can be giving this time. And she would say, no, I am the one to thank. Deep inside was exactly the opposite. But she was saying, no, I am the one to thank. Thank you. And she was starting to act extremely gently towards her cousin, every day saying thank you to her cousin that she could be there and she had this opportunity. She was the one to be grateful, and she started acting in this way. She said for the first 2-3 days was a big incoherence between what she was saying and what she was feeling. Okay, and after a few days, she continued doing it, and she was not really thinking much about it anymore. And the day that she was about to leave, she suddenly felt that she was sorry to go, and she was truly grateful to have been there. She stopped thinking about it in the last days before going, and what she felt was that actually it became true as she was about to go, and she went away with the true, sincere feeling of gratefulness. Okay? So she came to tell me that, saying, look, the teachings work, In the beginning, it was not true. It was incoherent, but suddenly I developed truly that feeling, and it was so beautiful. It was so good. And in the end, I feel grateful for what I learned. I feel grateful for this opportunity to deal with my selfishness. I feel grateful to see, and I feel I am a better person after this whole week I was here. So thank you, and I am so grateful to this opportunity and to my cousin and to all of this. So when we start changing our behavior from the way how we speak, from the way how we act, gradually it will influence our mind. Okay? So, when we talk here, meditate on the great kindness of all beings, before we are able to really generate the thought that, okay, we have equanimity towards all sentient beings, and after developing equanimity, we need to remember how much each or every one of them already gave and continue to give to us, and how much they have helped us in many moments, and so on, and by that develop this sensation of remembering the kindness of all beings. We must start first by remembering the kindness of those around us in our daily life, on the small things of our daily life. And being able really to say thank you, to say I am grateful, and to start that with the small things of our life. Because remember, both of them are habits. To be grateful or to complain. Are two habits. Okay? It's a matter of what we want for ourselves. If I want to suffer, let's complain. If I want to be happy, let's say thank you. Let's be grateful. For a very simple reason, as I said before. When I am grateful, it means I have. So, I develop satisfaction. With satisfaction, I develop happiness. When I complain, I criticize. Complaint and criticism goes together. What happened by complaining? It means I don't have enough and what I have is not good enough. So this brings me insatisfaction. Dissatisfaction, and dissatisfaction brings me suffering. So it's just a matter of asking ourselves, what do I want? And let's be coherent with what I want. Simple as that. Okay? One other aspect that is important here is the fact that if we feel that unsatisfied, if we feel that what we have is not enough, and if we feel that we are some sort of a victim of the world, okay, we will not be able to open ourselves to others. If I am a victim from you, am I going to open my heart towards you? If I am your victim? No. If I don't have enough, I'm not also going to open myself towards others. In the moment that we feel that we receive a lot from others, so we are not their victims, we are actually receiving from them. They are helping us, they are not actually harming us. We are receiving more good than bad. We are receiving good things from others. So in the moment that actually we feel grateful, in the moment that we feel the kindness from others, in the moment that we feel that we are not a victim at all, this is open. It opens our heart. It gives the possibility for us to open our hearts towards others. This is one of the reasons that before developing love and kindness towards others, love and compassion, and bodhicitta, first we need to feel grateful and we need to stop being a victim of the world. Okay? This is very simple actually, but it's very important. So how do we do that? Truly, by starting on our small things in our daily life. By saying thank you, by being grateful, by recognizing the kindness of others. And this is like small daily actions that makes a big, big difference. Okay? It makes a big difference in this life, it makes a big difference in our next lives. Okay? So, once again, gratitude brings satisfaction. Satisfaction brings happiness. Complaining brings dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction brings suffering. Just ask, what do I want? So where will I put my energy? What habit do I want to create? Where do I want to go? Now, is it easy to change a habit? Not at all. It is very difficult. No one ever said that Dharma is easy, okay? But it is beautiful and it's possible and the results are wonderful. The point is like, changing habits is not easy, but keeping them is worse. It's like changing the habit of complaining to the habit of rejoicing and feeling grateful is not easy. But remaining in the complaining, it's worse. So there was one teaching of Kyabche Trijang Rinpoche, one text he wrote about Lojong, about mind training. And one part of the text he talks about, do not fear suffering. We should not fear suffering, because by fearing suffering, we suffer much more. First, because we suffer a lot from the fear of suffering. Actually, if we really look, we suffer more from the fear of suffering than from the actual suffering quite often. Okay? So this is one reason why we should not fear suffering. He says in a very direct way, he says, suffering is inevitable as we are in samsara. So better to suffer for something that brings a good result at least. And he put the example. Suffer in order to change your bad habits. Because when we say it's not easy to change our habits, is there any suffering involved in it? Is it pleasurable to change our habit? Actually not. It's not easy. When we say it's not easy, it means there is unpleasure, there is suffering somehow involved. But what Rinpoche says is, anyhow we need to suffer in a way or another, so better to do it for something that is positive, no? So let's put our effort in changing our negative habits into positive habits. And this is something that is going to bring us a good result. Okay? And another thing that Rinpoche also said was, by accepting and making friendship with suffering, we overcome suffering. Because we suffer much more from the fear of suffering than from the actual suffering itself. Okay? It's a very simple way of seeing. We suffer much more relating to the past and to the future than to the present, no? We pass much more time re-suffering and pre-suffering than actually suffering, no? So we pass much more time doing that. So somehow, in the moment that we accept suffering, we stop suffering for the past and we stop worrying for the future. Okay, so more than 2/3 of our suffering is gone if we truly do it correctly. But what I want to say basically here is that to change our habit of complaining into the habit of rejoicing and feeling grateful, it is not easy. But it is something that it's very much worth to do. Okay? Because not doing it is also difficult. The result of not doing it. It's like there is a Tibetan saying which says, if you stand up, you hit your head. If you go down, you hit your bum. So basically, you have no any real way out. So better to choose the one that is of more benefit for you. Okay? So which is, let's put the effort to change our habit of complaining into the habit of rejoicing and being satisfied, and to the habit of saying thank you and being grateful and seeing the kindness of others. Okay? Well, as we go through the rest of the text of this first part, it brings us a very, very important practice, which is called the practice of Tonglen, of giving and taking, as the text says. Tonglen nibo pelmar jan lembe kore rangne tsam, tenilung la kyombar cha, yulsum tuksum getsa sum, jegi menga dordu pa, te la drempa kulwe chir, cholam kundu tsigi jang. Practice a combination of giving and taking. Giving and taking should be practiced alternately, and you should begin by taking from yourself. These two should be made to ride on the breath. So, to understand this practice, this is one of the most important parts of the training to develop love, we must understand two important aspects. The first is the aspect that to change a behavior, to develop an habit, it's done by repetition. Okay? The more I repeat something, the easier it becomes. As Shantideva said in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, Komna lawar migyur pengode kanya yomayin. There is nothing that is not easy once we get used to it. So we need to repeat it again and again and again and again and again and again until it gradually becomes natural and spontaneous. Okay? So the attitude of being grateful and the attitude of being altruistic with love and compassion is something that we need to train in order for it to become true and sincere. The other aspect is that, as we have been seeing this in these previous days, our mind is not able to think about two direct opposite things at the same time. As we made the example, we're not able to think at the same time, I like water and I don't like water. Okay?
So what do we need to do in order to eliminate one thought that we don't want? To generate a directly opposite one. If we just try to put away that thought, what happens normally? It bounces back and is sticking even more to ourselves, okay? So in order to eliminate a thought that we don't like, what we need to do? We need to generate a directly opposite thought to the one that we want to eliminate. So what is the attitude? Now the correct way of saying is we need to generate a directly opposite mode of apprehension. So what is the mode of apprehension of selfishness? What is good, I want for me. What is bad, I want far away from me. It doesn't matter where it is, with whom it is, as long as it is far from the I and from the my, I'm happy with that. Okay? So, what is good, I want for me. What is bad, I don't want for me. I want far away from me. So this is the natural attitude of selfishness. So, in order for us to eliminate selfishness as the main cause of our own suffering, it's not enough just to say selfishness, go away. It's not going to happen. Or just to say, I shouldn't be selfish. That's not going to be enough. We need to generate a direct opposite mode of apprehension, a direct opposite state of mind. So, what is the direct opposite state of mind of the selfish one? What is good, I give to others. What is bad, I take to myself. Okay. There is one very, very important detail in the middle of this, that is the fact of the way how we make it. And the first time I was teaching Lojong, Rinpoche asked me, he said, oh, how are you teaching? He wanted to know about this detail. And luckily, I was teaching in accordance with the text of Trichan Rinpoche, where he explained very clear this point. So then he said, okay, if it's like this, then it's fine. Because when we take the negativities upon ourselves, it should not be just like becoming more sick and getting all the negativities above us. That's not working. Okay? So the first step is what is being said here in the text. Banish the one to blame for everything. So first, we should recognize the one to blame for everything, which is our selfishness. We recognize our selfishness in our heart. Okay, in the heart chakra, in the center of our heart, we visualize a strong, dense, black mass. Okay, and it's dense, it's somehow sticky, it's black, and it is something that it's disgusting, okay? And in this way, we imagine that this is what? Is the black mass of our selfishness, of our anger, and everything that comes out of selfishness. We imagine that everything absorbs into it, and it's representing there our anger, jealousy, pride, arrogance, fear, miserliness, selfishness, and finally ignorance. But mainly we imagine selfishness. So, banish the one to blame for everything. So we remember our selfishness. We remember the selfishness as the main cause of our suffering. And we represent it as this strong, deep mass, black mass at our heart. Okay? I imagine normally more or less the size of a hand at the heart, the center of our chest. And as we imagine it, it feels heavy. It feels uncomfortable. We want to eliminate it, but we don't know how. We don't have a tool how to just take it away and put it away. So first we imagine it and we recognize this, our selfishness, as the main cause of our suffering. We recognize it clearly. We put it there and we remember that this is the main cause of our suffering, okay? And we put all our negativities, our sicknesses, our bad karma, everything is coming from selfishness. So everything is in there. Everything is absorbed into that black mass, our heart of selfishness. This is the first step. So banish the one to blame for everything. Practice a combination of giving and taking. Giving and taking should be practiced alternately. and you should begin by taking from yourself. This too should be made to right on the breath. There is a very important point here also, which is you should begin by taking from yourself. As we said before, if we feel a victim and if we feel that we don't have enough, we are not going to be able to open our heart towards others. So the first thing that we do is that we imagine our own selves in the future, and we can also imagine our own selves of the past. Okay? We can do first one and then the other, or both together. More easy to do first one and then the other. So we imagine the suffering that we had in the past, the traumas that we experienced from our childhood or from last week, it doesn't matter. So the suffering that is there, normally all the reasons why we re-suffer, no? So we remember ourselves of the past, and then we take the suffering from ourselves of the past. And this suffering comes in the form of dark black smoke that absorbs into us, and as the negativity comes in, it enters into the black mass of our heart, and it's like two negative forces, one eliminating the other. So the more negativity I take within, the weaker the black mass of selfishness becomes. The smaller and the weaker it becomes. So what I do is that when we inhale, we take the negativities upon ourselves, and the negativity is absorbed into the black mass. And the black mass becomes each time smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And when we exhale, we give to others our pleasure, our joy, our happiness, peace, satisfaction. We manifest our body to help with the physical things. We manifest anything that we may possess material that is giving the material help. We transform, if light manifests from our hearts, transforming into everything that everyone may ever need. And we give to others the good things. But we start by doing that with our own self. We start by doing that by taking upon ourselves our sufferings of the past and giving to that self of the past joy and happiness. Then we do that also with ourself of the future. We imagine ourselves in the future, and to ourself of the future we give happiness and we take the suffering. So by doing this first part of the practice, what we do is that we accept the suffering of the past and we are not afraid of the suffering of the future. Okay? Because when I take upon myself the suffering of the past, I am accepting the suffering of the past. I am not rejecting it. When I take upon myself the suffering from the future, of my own suffering from the future, I am not having any more fear from the suffering of the future. Okay? And by doing that, I am more in peace. And I'm not a victim anymore, so I can open myself to take from others. So once we have done this, then the second step is that in which we inhale and take the suffering of others. And we start by practicing which what are called the 5 objects in this case, which is the 5 situations, 5 types of people that are more near to us. Okay? So we need to start practicing with our family members, with our friends, with the people that we live together, which means in our work and daily connections, people that we meet and are part of our daily life, with the people to whom we gave benefit and in exchange they treat us badly. Okay? In other words, people that we helped and in exchange they harmed us. And people to whom we have a so-called karmic aversion. People that we don't like and we even don't know why. Okay? So-called enemies, generally speaking. So, basically, we start practicing with friends, family, people we know, enemies, and enemies that we know why, and enemies that we don't know why they're enemies, basically. Okay? So it's very easy, it's more easy to start practicing with the little children that are in Africa that we have never seen, okay? Nothing against that, it's beautiful to do it also, but we need to start with those that are near to us. So we start by taking upon ourselves the suffering of our friends, of our family, of the people that are more near to us. Then we start by taking upon us the suffering of the people that we don't know. And we start by taking upon ourselves the suffering of the people to whom we have aversion and difficulty, remembering that we need to start by practicing equanimity. So we take upon ourselves the suffering as we inhale. And as we inhale, we imagine this thick smoke that comes, this thick smoke, black smoke comes, and it absorbs into our heart. And as it absorbs into our heart, in the black mass of our heart, it becomes smaller and weaker. Remember that point. The more I take negativities upon myself, the weaker my own selfishness becomes. And then as I exhale, I manifest light that goes to all sentient beings, starting with the specific ones and then manifesting to others. And I give them joy. I share with them everything that I have. I share with them my merits, my body, my mind, everything that I have positive. It multiplies in the form of light, going to every sentient being and helping them, bringing them to a state of peace and joy. So we do this first with ourselves regarding the past and future. Then we do this with others. Okay? It's not a very easy process, but it's a very powerful training. And we are actually generating a direct opposite mode of apprehension of that of selfishness. And by doing that, we are truly, gradually changing our inner behavior. Okay? So it's an actual training, as the name itself of the practice calls, Lojong. Okay? Then not only we do this in meditation. Normally when we do in meditation, first we start with some breathing meditation, then we do the preliminary practices with refuge and so on. And then after that, we request the blessings of Guru Buddha in order to give us the strength to be able to take the suffering of others upon ourselves and give our happiness to them. We can also even visualize Guru Buddha that gives us the strength, and his joy that we receive, we give to others. But then, at that point, we visualize our own selfishness, the black mass in our heart. Then we start taking the suffering of ourselves, of the past and the future upon ourselves, of the present, and giving our own joy for ourselves of the past and ourselves of the future. And then after that, we start doing that which is the main part of the practice with other people, animals, all forms of life. We give to them happiness and joy, and we take upon ourselves. We start by taking. Also the name Tonglen, Tong means to give, Len means to take. It's a bit strange in a way because the practice is first taking and after giving, but the name is first is giving and taking, but the practice is taking and giving. One of the reasons for that is that in Tibetan language, it's very common that when something does not sound okay, in Tibetan it's called Debjurgiwantu, the name is changed, or the order is changed. Okay? Even the name of our tradition, which is called the Gelugpa tradition, originally was called the Gelugpa tradition. But Gelugpa doesn't sound nice, so it was transformed into Gelugpa. But it's very interesting and very good to know because Gelugpa means the tradition of the virtuous, of virtue, okay? Gewa means virtue, Luk means tradition, the tradition of virtue. But the original name was Gelugpa, which means the tradition of joy. Okay? So we need to remember always the original name. We are part of the tradition of joy from Lama Tsongkhapa, Gelugpa. But Gelugpa didn't sound nice, so it became Gelugpa. Similar to that, there are many things, like in Tibetan, when you enlist things like body, speech, mind, quality, and action. That's the correct order. But in Tibetan, very often it's said body, speech, mind, action, and quality, because it sounds better. Okay? The actual order is the other were quality and action, but you say action and quality. Similar to that, if you say Lentong, looks like Chinese. The sound sounds like a Chinese word. So it doesn't sound like Tonglen flows better as a word. So basically the practice of Lentong became Tonglen. Okay? This is one of the explanations. So anyhow, The point is that it's called the practice of giving and taking, but it's practiced by taking and giving. Okay? So we start by taking upon ourselves the suffering and then giving the joy and the happiness and everything that is good. We share our merits, we share our body, we share what we own materially, and everything gets manifested in the form of light and nectar that multiply to infinite and help every sentient being around us. Remember, first we do with ourselves, then we do it with others. Okay? So, this shoe should be made to ride on the breath. So we do this with our breathing. When we are not in the actual moment of meditation, there is another way how we can do the practice also, how we continue to do the practice. As you may remember, in the beginning of these teachings, we said one of the special qualities of the practices of Lojong is that there is no excuse not to practice. Okay? Any moment, anywhere, it's a good opportunity. So, for example, when we are in a moment of difficulty and suffering, let's take, for instance, we have headache. Okay? In the moment of the headache, what's our natural attitude when we are suffering? I don't want to suffer. I have headache, I want my headache to end. So normally when we suffer, we have an altruistic attitude or we have a selfish attitude? Selfish. When we are in a moment of pleasure, what is our attitude? I want to share it with everyone, or I want my pleasure to continue. We have an altruistic attitude or a pleasure or a selfish attitude. Selfish attitude. What do we want to train in? Altruistic attitude instead of the selfish attitude. So how do we do that? Suffering can help us to train compassion. Pleasure and joy can help us to train love. So how do we do that? When I am in a moment of suffering, I would just open my heart and think, may everyone that is having the same suffering as mine be free from their suffering as I become free from mine. So I have a headache and I go to take a pill to eliminate my headache, and I'm thinking, may by eliminating my own pain, may everyone be free from their own pain. So when I dedicate that may everyone be free from pain, what am I developing? Compassion. May others be free from suffering. So I use my own suffering. I use my own moments of suffering, of difficulty. I am sad. May everyone be free from sadness as I eliminate my own sadness. So whenever we have any state of suffering or difficulty, we open our heart and we dedicate that may everyone else that is having that same type of suffering and difficulty be free from it, as I am being free from mine. Okay? So we use our own moment of suffering to develop compassion. When we have a moment of joy, how wonderful, how beautiful, may everyone enjoy the same joy that I am having. May everyone feel the happiness that I feel. May everyone have the pleasure that I have. May everyone enjoy this pleasure and joy as I am enjoying it. So what are we developing as we do that? Love, which means to wish others to be happy. So we use our moment of pleasure. Let's say I am drinking a tea and I'm really enjoying it. I dedicate, may everyone enjoy the pleasure that I have and the satisfaction and the joy that I have. So, may this pleasure continue as long as we can, so we can dedicate it longer and longer, no? It's not, we don't need to feel guilty to have pleasure and to have joy and to be happy. Instead, we say, may that we live it even in a more deep and stronger way as we dedicate that for everyone else. Okay? So, when we have a moment of suffering, we can train compassion. When we have a moment of pleasure, we can train love. When we have a moment of happiness, we can train love. Okay? So, this is helping us to train ourselves in every moment of our life. Okay? I am eating some nice food. May everyone that has hunger be eliminated from their hunger. I dedicate my food for everyone. We can even do visualizations. We visualize that our food multiplies and everybody that don't have food or whatever, okay? And everybody enjoys it so much. We can do it in many ways. But the point is to open our heart in the moments of pleasure and in the moments of joy and happiness and pleasure and in the moments of suffering. And we can use both situations to do that. And it's not that difficult. It's just a matter of doing or not doing. You know, when we say the practice of Tonglen, of giving and taking, is a practice. And a practice only works if it is practiced, right? So we must do it. We must take it into consideration in our daily life. So, practice a combination of giving and taking. Giving and taking should be practiced alternately. And you should begin by taking from yourself. These two should be made to ride on the breath. I think it's quite clear, right? So this is one of the most powerful meditations that exist. And I'm sure if we do it sincerely, for half an hour at least every day, after 1 week, sure there is a difference in our attitude. And if we practice during meditation, and we also practice outside of meditation by directing our behavior and our thoughts in the moments of pleasure and suffering, then really we make a difference. Okay? So, this is a very, very powerful tool that we have, and I just think that we should use it in the best way as we can. Okay? It's also like one time Lama Ganchen, he was saying he used to see a lot of the news in the television, no? Nowadays, it's not more any much television news. He's looking more the news in YouTube nowadays. Anyhow, the point was, when looking at news, Rinpoche used to say to us, you know, why I do it? He was not saying that every day, but he says, because I see the reality in the world, and when I see the suffering, I pray for the people. He sees the suffering of people around in the news, and he's dedicating and praying for them and practicing Tonglen. You know, I remember one time here, many years ago, we were here in the center and arrived, you know, outside there is this little pond and there is this dolphin made out of marble. Okay? And Rinpoche was very happy. He bought these statues in Switzerland, coming back from going to see Trijang Rinpoche in Austria. And then he came back with these statues. He was very happy with the statues. And then he was putting inside here, it was all concrete at the time. So he was putting the statues somewhere and there was this machine with like a sort of elastic, and then he was doing crack, crack, crack like this, then to bring up. And he wanted to do himself. So he started doing it, and suddenly one of the hook went out and went on his face and made quite a big cut above his eyes. Didn't go on the eye, it went. That was full of blood everywhere, you know. And then as it was doing this, okay, everybody freaked out around, and okay, Rinpoche is in that situation. And then Rinpoche started to recite. We could see by his voice that it was painful. And he was reciting Tena Jetsun Lama Tujeche. No? The verse of the Guru Puja which refers, may I take all the suffering upon myself and give my happiness to others. So what he was doing in a moment of pain, he was saying, may through my pain I take the suffering of others through my pain, and may my happiness be given to others. So that's one practical example. When we have a difficult moment, we dedicate, may through our suffering, we eliminate the suffering of all. And may we give our happiness to others when it's a more moment of joy. So this is an example, you know, we had practically, we could see it. And of ways how we can do that in our daily life. Okay? But we don't need to wait big moments of suffering. We can do from the little small things, okay? So this is all for everything. Just remembering that it's a very, very powerful tool that we have to change our paradigm and to change our deep habits. Okay? Okay, the only risk of doing Tonglen is if you don't put the black mask of selfishness in your heart. Okay? I will give you one short example, which that's why this is a safety, like how to say it, there's a safety device, is to put the black mask of selfishness in your heart. There was one friend of ours, Mr. Koch, and he had this experience. I'm just sharing what he shared with me. Okay, he said that he needed to make one surgery of prostate. He had a prostate cancer, so he needed to take out all the prostate. And he was in the hospital, ready to take away all the prostate. And he said, okay, as it's going out, he did, as he was in the hospital, the practice of Tonglen, imagining that all the negativities and pains and sufferings of everyone that was in the hospital was absorbing into his prostate as they were taking it out. Before doing the surgery, they came and they did whatever tests to see how big was the prostate in order to choose what type of surgery they were going to do. Then, okay, they came, they did a test. He was there doing his visualization of Tonglen, all the pain and all the sickness of everyone around going to his prostate. And then after, okay, he did the anesthesia, and he did the surgery, and he finished the surgery after the doctors came and said, sorry, we needed to change the type of surgery, because when we went to do the surgery, the prostate was much, much bigger than it was before. We don't know how to explain that. And they asked, can we keep that prostate in order for research reasons for our university? Because it's something that it's really much beyond what we ever expected, you know. And it's when we cannot understand why before was small and suddenly it got so big in this aspect. So one way it is like, the only danger is if somehow I believe we need to direct the negativity against another negativity, which is our own selfishness. That's the objective of it. If we do it like, I want to take the pain upon myself, so I will suffer more and all of this, then it's not good. Okay? That's why Lama Ganchen asked me the first time, are you putting that detail on there or not? Okay? So the attitude is to take the suffering. But there is this detail, this safety device, which is remembering that we are doing it. And in the text it says actually, banish the one to blame for everything. Remember, it's against one's own selfishness. So we imagine our selfishness and we go against our selfishness. That's important to be together. Okay? No, I don't think there is any negative side effect. Don't worry at all about that. Okay, we complete the meditation by visualizing that everyone around is completely free from all sorts of suffering and that our own black mass in the heart is completely gone. So as the last suffering goes in, the black mass completely dissolves and there is nothing more. And then we visualize the happiness of every sentient being, our own well-being, and we deeply rejoice about it. That's how we conclude. Okay? Not exactly. What happened is that the black mass represents selfishness and everything that comes out of it. So anger, jealousy, fear, and so on. Okay? We are actually, when we take the negativity, all of this, the selfishness is getting smaller, and by consequence, all the other negativities also get smaller. Okay? The black smoke is made out of negativities, which is the suffering, the sickness, the negative karma, the mental defilements, all of it. Yes, which includes also that. Okay? So this is a brief explanation, short explanation about the practice of Tonglen. And so please now is on your hands to practice or not. So please give a trial at least. If you see that it works, continue. If you see that it doesn't work, it's of no benefit, you can leave it, let it be. But we need to try it and we need to do it in order to have the actual benefits from it. Okay?
Jetsun lame kutse rapten chi namkar chinle chochur gepa dang losan tempe drume sasumgi drove musel tatu ne gyur chi
Nimo dele tsendele, nime kuyan delekshing, ninsen takto delekpe, koncho sumke jingelo, koncho sumge ngodrup sol, koncho sumge trashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.